I've been able to heal from generational trauma. I'm still healing from different traumas and different things that's happened in my life. But therapy was just so prevalent for me, and it taught me more about myself that I thought.
Hello, welcome to Authentically Aligned, a wellness podcast where we speak on all things wellness, from fitness and nutrition to meditation and mindfulness, healing, growth, self-help, and so much more. If you are a new listener, welcome to the podcast. And if you are a returning listener, thank you so much for your love and support. And I want you to know I'm sending that love and support right back to you. Today, we have a guest on the podcast, one of my good friends that I'm so excited to have. She is an incredible human being. She has a bachelor's and master's in social work. She is an advocate for the Black and Brown community in various settings and organizations. She is also a community resource for Black and Brown women on their wellness and healing journey. She is the owner of Being Brown, where her focus is intersecting beauty and mental health conversations through different social media platforms, community events, and more. Like I said, she is an incredible person. She's one of my dear friends. She is so inspiring and probably one of the hardest working people that I know. Please welcome to the mic, Jasmine Brown. Hello.
Hi.
I'm so happy you're here.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here.
How do you feel today?
I feel very calm, peaceful, all the feels, just enjoying the rain.
I know, it's a rainy day here in LA today.
So I feel like that kind of prompted the peacefulness I feel today,
Yeah. I feel like also when it rains, it's always just like a cleansing.
Yes.
And then the sun comes out and you're like, wow, I feel like a
whole
energy.
New person. Yeah,
exactly.
I agree. And I feel like in California, it just doesn't rain often. So when it does, I just try to, especially if I can, just take it all in.
Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so excited to have you today.
I'm happy to be here, girl.
I have our mocktails.
Really
you already
cute,
know.
really
So,
cute.
Cheers.
Cheers. This is so adorable. Oh, this is really good.
So the tradition on the podcast is that you get to name the mocktail. No
Okay.
pressure. You don't have to do it right now, but this is your mocktail to be named.
Okay, I'm going to have to think about that.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would name it, but I'm going to think on it.
Yeah. So I was telling our audience a little bit about you, but I want to hear it from you. Tell us who is Jasmine and give us a little insight into you.
Wow, I feel like that's such...
Now looking back,
it feels like such a loaded question, but my name is Jasmine Brown. I'm originally from Greenville, North Carolina. I've been out in LA since, I believe, 2021, fall 2021. I am a social worker. I graduated with my master's in social work from University of Southern California. I'm also an entrepreneur. I own a beauty brand. It's called Being Brown, and my goal is just to really inspire and also just create a safe place for Black and Brown individuals. But I really, really have a soft heart for adolescents. I love working with adolescents. I love doing mental health and therapy with adolescents. And I feel like in a nutshell, I would say that's me. in a nutshell.
I think that's a great nutshell statement. Yeah, you did great. Good job. Okay, so we're going to hop right into it.
Let's get into it.
But I want to know,
I'm ready.
Viewers want to know, what got you started on your journey to self-discovery and healing, your own personal journey?
My own personal journey. Wow. I would say just constantly making myself uncomfortable.
Ooh, that's so good.
That's what got me started in my journey. And I feel like in my mind, it felt like I was unintentionally doing it, but I think it was very intentional when I look back at it now. So I grew up with, it was me, my brother. My brother's 2 years older than me, and my mom. My mom was always working, grinding, hustling, but she and my grandmother, I would say my whole family, they've always been in the helping field. So like that's something that was always like a value of mine. Like growing up, I always wanted to like work with other people, give back. Like I would go with my mom when she would have like her own groups and things like that for adolescents. Like that was just something that was ingrained in me at such a young age. So it came second nature to me. You know, growing up, they used to always call me like shy. I feel like that was the label I got very young because I was always super quiet. But I think that although I was super quiet, I always had so much to say. I just didn't know how to say it, you know? So for me, it was really like just finding my voice. So I stepped out of like the comfortability around me to find my voice. Like it felt so pressing at the time. And I remember I didn't go off initially for college. I went to a community college first because I was pretty young when I graduated. Just because of how my birthday fell, I started off at a private school. And then I transitioned over to a public school. Once I transitioned over to a public school, they put me in a higher grade than what I was initially supposed to be in. So I graduated pretty early. I don't think I was really ready to go off to a four-year university, even though I wanted to. But my mom was very persistent with me staying. So I stayed back and I went to community college. But I did move out of my mom's house at such a young age. I moved out when I turned 18. I mean, I feel like some people are staying in the house a little longer, and I don't blame them. I don't think I was ready for that either. But through that, I was able to learn so much more about myself and also challenge myself to go more inwards to find who I am. And it was hard. It was really hard. Like at that time, I feel like I was really dependent on weed. When I first like moved out of my mom's house, like I was finding anything to avoid or, you know, not really deal with all the things that was coming up for me at that time, you know. As a young girl, that was always, I felt very muted. Like I think for a while, like I felt like my my throat chakra was like
blocked.
Yeah, it was not a thing at all. But I didn't know what that was at such a young age. So like I was just I was in the wrong relationships. I was, you know, really heavily dependent on marijuana, weed at that time. And I kid you not, like I woke up, I remember it was the new year. It was New Year's Day. I can't remember what year it was, but I woke up and I said, you know what? Like, this is not how I want to live my life. Like I expect so much from myself. So I woke up, I threw away all of my weed supplies, like my grinder. Like I had the whole ordeal. Like I was a stoner, so I had everything. I woke up and I threw everything away. At that time, I wasn't doing really well in school. Like I was really depressed. I was super depressed. I didn't know it at that time, but I was really depressed and I was really going through it. But I picked up a second job because I got to the point where I was on probation at school, and that was my second time being on probation, so the school was just not having it. They were like, listen, we're not giving you no more money. You're just going to have to either figure that shit out or you're going to have to drop out. And I feel like my mom was kind of like, she pushed me in a way that I needed to be pushed at that time. Like, she did not coddle me in that moment. She was really like, no, Jazz, like, I've helped you. Like, you got to figure this shit out on your own. And that was like a really big realization for me. So I picked up a second job. I started working. I was working at Cheddar's in Greenville, North Carolina. I met some of like my closest friends there that I still keep in contact with now. And I was also working at a cell phone company. It's called US Cellular. You will never ever hear that place anywhere in West Coast, just because like it was a really small like cellular company that I worked for. I bust my ass, and that's when I finally transitioned over to UNC Charlotte. I don't even know how I got into UNC Charlotte. Nicolette, my GPA was like ground zero. Like I'm honestly surprised to this day. I really feel like that was God. Like I kid you not. It was a blessing, because like that was what I needed to continuously take myself out of my comfort zone. And I remember as I was preparing to like move to Charlotte, I just kept telling myself like I really want to show up as my best self. Like, what does that look like for me? So I became super involved on campus at UNC Charlotte. Like I forged a really good friend group. I learned a lot about myself during that time period. And then, you know, I was in like one of my social work class, and they were asking everybody like, oh, like, what are you going to do, like, once you leave? Like, what's your goal? Like, are you going to go back to school? Like, are you going to stay in the area? And like I just blurted out that I wanted to move to California. I had no idea what I was going to do out here, why I was going. Yes, I had started to like I've always been into makeup. That's always been my thing. Because I saw my mom, like she's the one that introduced me to it, like, you know, going in her makeup room, taking all her stuff, wearing her liner to school, trying to wipe it off before I got off the bus, looking like a badger. Like, I was taking all her stuff. I feel so bad looking back now. I'm just like, dang, like, all her really good gold jewelry, if it wasn't for me, like, I probably would have got it later on down the line, but I was taking it out her room at such a young age. And I was like losing it.
Oh my god!
So like all of her good gold jewelry I cannot find like to this day. But I think I was like, yeah, I'm moving to California. Like I'm doing it, you know? And at that time I feel like I was actually going through like another spiritual awakening. And I knew that when I decided, hey, this is something that I'm doing, I need to go explore it by myself. So I think at this time I was working at Red Robin, saving my little tips. I put all my tips aside. I booked my flight. I found like a cute little guest house. I can't remember where I stayed at when I came out here. I just remember like the area. I know it was like a walkable city because I would walk to different restaurants and different places. But I cannot for the life of me remember where it was.
Oh my gosh.
I have no idea. But I came out here, I lived in a guest house, I explored LA by myself, I looked at different schools because I knew that school was going to be my way in. I knew I wanted to go ahead and pursue social work, I just didn't know where and if it was something I was going to pursue as soon as I graduated, because I graduated during the pandemic. It was just a lot going on.
Oh yeah.
You know, so, you know, I was like, it was really tough for me at that time. And I remember like just looking, I'm just like, okay, like if I'm gonna do this, I'm just gonna go ahead and just do it. So I booked the flight. I came out here. I applied for USC on the last day that the application was due. I was just on some wild. I was just listen. I don't know. I was procrastinating, but I knew in my hearts of hearts like that's what I wanted to do, because I didn't apply for any other school. Like I only applied for University of Southern California.
Wow.
And I got in. I got into the 3-year program. I was waitlisted initially. And the reason why I was waitlisted was because although I had so many amazing things like on my resume, like my GPA was still always a struggle for me. And that was because my last semester I thought I wanted to be a psychiatrist. I couldn't get past chemistry. Chemistry was hard. So my GPA took a tumble because of that. So after I had that conversation with them and they was able to kind of hear me out, they were like, okay, like we're going to let you into our school, but listen here, you know, you're going to come into the 3-year program. You cannot come into the 2-year program. But it actually worked out because I was able to use that time to cultivate Being Brown. And that's when Being Brown was born.
That's amazing. So you didn't start creating Being Brown until after you moved here?
No, I actually, I started creating Being Brown. I got the concept in 2017 because I remember that was the first note where I wrote Being Brown down. I had no idea what it was going to conceptualize to. I feel like I was still trying to figure that out. But in 2017, that's when I initially wrote the note. 2020, when we first shut down the pandemic, I used like it was some type of check, maybe the stimulus check. I'm not sure. I used like the stimulus check to like buy everything that I needed to like start creating makeup and stuff like that. I was watching YouTube videos. That's how I learned how to make makeup. And that's really where I used to take like my little samples to Red Robin, and I would show my friend like, oh my gosh, girl, like look what I made today. And I remember my friend Shania, she was like, oh my gosh, like this is really cool. Like you should start selling it. And I was like, oh my gosh, really? And she was like, yeah, like I would buy it from you. And after that, I was like, okay, girl, you say you're going to buy it. I'm about to start making more. Yeah. So that's originally how it started. But I don't think I think I realized exactly how I wanted my brand to show up in the world when I moved to California. But I was doing pop-ups when I did the 3-year program. For the first year I was in North Carolina staying with my mom. And that's when I started doing pop-ups. That's when I had like my first brand shoot. I used all of my friends because I feel like you know, I want my makeup and like what people are wearing to look like people that I actually talk to, normal people. You know, sometimes I feel like brands, they stray away from, they're kind of out of touch with reality just a little bit, depending on the brand. And I really want to feel like you're at home. Like, that's what I see for being brown. Like, people come here and they're like, oh my gosh, like, this is for me, you know?
Yeah. Everyday people.
Yeah, everyday
cool.
people. So
that's cool. I have another question for you. So you said you came out here to visit. You came by yourself. That was the first time you had been here?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So do you have any idea of what was going on in your mind when you were like, I want to move to California? Like, what at the time seemed so great about being in California?
That's a really good question. I visualized myself here. Like, I saw myself just accomplishing just so much. And I don't know why. I think at the time I was watching a lot of YouTube videos, and the YouTube video I was watching, the YouTuber was, I think, Kennedy Simone, and she was actually from the North Carolina area, and I was like watching her journey, and then I was like tapping into other different people on YouTube that was like, you know, just even if it wasn't LA, it was other places where they were just getting out of like their environment and going towards like what they want to accomplish. And it was so many different ways I could have like stayed comfortable in my environment. It was a lot of things that were already set in place for me. So if I wanted to just stay in that comfortability, I could have. But I knew in my hearts of hearts that I would not have been satisfied. I felt like it wouldn't have pushed me and forced me to like grow to the capacity where I see myself and I visualize myself, you know? So I had to step out of that to be able to move forward, you know? Greenville, North Carolina, like, if anyone's ever been to that city, it is a city that you don't really want to get warped in, you know? It's like, I love my city. Like, I'm a 252 girl to the day I die, but I knew that I had to step out of that to be able to give back to my community.
Absolutely.
You know, and do better for myself first before I can go back and really sow some seeds, you know?
That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think you kind of already somewhat answered this question, but do you feel like if you would have stayed, you would have become just comfortable and complacent? Like, do you think that the move was to push yourself?
Yeah.
To step outside of your comfort zone?
I feel like I don't think I would have. I don't think I would have stayed complacent. I think I would have explored other avenues.
Okay.
You know, and it might have not have been like exactly what I imagined in my head.
Right.
But I think I definitely would have. I would have explored other avenues. I just don't think it would have been the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, and everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And every decision that you make leads to something different.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the beauty of life. But it's also the beauty of us being able to connect. Like, the choices that we made put us in a position for us to be able to meet and connect, and that's so beautiful. And
I know.
That's the beautiful part of life.
Yes, so happy I was able to meet you. You're such a ray of sunshine.
Oh,
seriously.
Okay, so along your journey,
yeah,
what are some of the most prominent healing modalities that have helped you?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a really good one. I would say nature. Nature was very, like, I remember my mom, she moved into a new house out in like the Raleigh, Wake Foresty area. Nothing but trees, nothing but forests. Like, you could literally wake up in the morning and see deer running across the backyard. Nature was a huge healer for me, and me being able to put myself outside and like just listen to the birds, listen to the the trees rustling, like that was healing for me. It was so healing for me, like just being in that solitude. Like I will go out there in the morning. I would sit on the porch. I would have like my yoga mat, and I would just close my eyes and just be in that moment. And it was just so peaceful. I think that's one of the things I do miss about being home. That was really peaceful for me. And then, of course, therapy. Having someone from the outside be able to hold me accountable towards like the things I want to work on, the things I want to heal from. Talk therapy has been really, really eye-opening for me. Through it, I've been able to heal from generational trauma. I'm still healing from different traumas and different things that's happened in my life. But therapy was just so prevailing for me, and it taught me more about myself that I thought I couldn't really overcome a lot of different things that had happened. But I can, and I still am. And that's one thing I will say that I'm very grateful for. It's like being introduced to therapy at such a young age and not being ashamed to go to therapy, because I think that is a stigma that's kind of still in our community. We don't go and we don't talk about our problems. We don't put anybody in our family business or like different things that might have happened to us. But for me, therapy is a safe space, especially when I find a therapist that truly understands my identity and understands who I am as a person. I feel like it goes back to like dating someone in relationships. Like think of therapy as a relationship. I think every relationship should be something that you can take something from, someone that's a safe space for you. It's the same thing. And sometimes you got to date around. Sometimes you got to swipe left a few times to find that therapist, but they're out there,
Absolutely. What would you, for somebody who is looking to get into therapy but doesn't know where to start, what is your recommendation for that?
I would say one of my favorite key resources is Therapy for Black Girls. I've been using that resource for some time now. That's typically the one I send out first. If you're in the California area, I also like using Octave. Octave is really cool because it lets you kind of go through and like choose like different preferences that you enjoy. Octave should sponsor this video for my girl Nicolette. But it lets you choose like different preferences, like if you want someone that's a man, a woman, non-binary, or like different identities, if you want someone that's spiritual. I really, really, really recommend Octave. I love Octave. And of course, for those that's kind of like placed in different places of the world, I would say Therapy for Black Girls. It's a really good one too.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when searching for a therapist, I think some people who have never been to therapy before kind of maybe don't know what to look for in a therapist. So it is kind of just like you were saying, it's like dating. So it's like, okay, you're going to write down all the qualities that you want.
Yeah.
So what, in your eyes, are some good qualities for a therapist to have? I feel like I've been having conversations recently about therapy. And of course, I've been in therapy and I've been so fortunate that my therapist is incredible and I didn't have to search very hard to find her. Good. So I was blessed in that sense. But I also can empathize for those who struggle to find a good therapist or who even don't know where to start. And so they just don't find a therapist because it's intimidating.
It is.
So I think that for me, I want to share with others who maybe are looking to get into therapy but don't know how, don't know where to start. So going back, what are some qualities that you would look for in a therapist?
Yeah, that's a good question. Definitely someone that's going to hold you accountable. Like
I agree with that.
Be able to call you out on your shit.
Calling you out. If your therapist can't call you out, they're not the one.
Find a new one. Baby, find a new one. I would definitely say someone that's going to hold you accountable. Someone that's going to listen to you and not offer you advice per se, but let you come to your own advice. Yes. That's a good therapist.
Yes.
Sometimes we don't need a talking to. Sometimes we just need someone that's going to hear us out, ask the right questions to get our mind thinking, and we come to that realization ourselves. because sometimes with advice, maybe that's advice that we're not necessarily ready for. But when you're able to come to that realization yourself, it's just something really beautiful about it.
Absolutely.
So that's one thing I would say to look for in your therapist, and someone that sees you fully, able to take in all your identities. I think that's super important. And yeah, in a safe space. I think those are the main things I really look for when I'm looking for a therapist. Well, when I was looking for a new therapist, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely a safe space. I agree with that. And I also think that you were talking about somebody who sees you for who you are. But I think that on the other side of that, it's important to be vulnerable enough for your therapist to see that. Because I think that there are people who can be going to therapy and they go through their sessions every week, but if they're not being honest with themselves, then they're for sure not being honest with their therapist. And it's kind of, I wouldn't say wasting your time, but like
that's
essentially,
a good one.
essentially, you know.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
So being able to be vulnerable, but finding somebody who allows you that space and the safety to open up in that vulnerability and be honest with yourself. And then you're able to be honest in other instances.
Absolutely. And then also be ready to do the work too.
Yes.
You know, or are you just wasting your money?
Yes.
Unless you have really good insurance, you're just wasting your money. You know, you have to be ready and able to do the work, because the work does not end when you leave therapy.
When the session's over.
When the session's over. You know, like, that's when the real work begins.
Exactly.
When the session's over, you're off of that call, you left your in-person session, like, that's when the work begins. And that's when you really have to start diving deep into yourself and applying some of the things that you learned. So, yeah.
What would you say to somebody who thinks that they don't need to go to therapy?
I would be like, okay. No, but like I literally would say that. And the reason why is because, like, I understand that therapy is not the only modality to healing.
Yes.
You know, and that's why I say, okay, I'm thinking like, okay, well, how are you seeking out healing? You know, are you going art therapy, music therapy, dance therapy, sound bath, sound healing? Like, there's so many ways to become in tune with yourself.
Yes.
You know, outside of therapy. Sometimes therapy is just not some people's jazz, not their tea. And I completely understand that. So if you don't want to go to therapy, that's cool. I think you need to find other ways to hold yourself accountable in different spaces, or for some type of healing, so you don't become stagnant. Because one thing I've realized is, like, the universe will not put anything in. You may want something, but until you're ready for it, it's not gonna come. And sometimes, like, you're blocking your own blessings when you're not able to take a step back and look inside and internal to see if you're the person that's in the way of the things that you want and want to receive, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that you go to talk therapy. What are other forms of therapy that you practice?
That's a good question. Well, you know, I love a good sound bath. So I love going to Nicolette's sound baths. I recently started getting back into yoga. Like, I bought a cute little yoga mat from Amazon, and it has like all the yoga moves and yoga poses on it.
I love that.
So I've been using that. So I love going to yoga from time to time too, but I think the biggest one I practice is definitely sound bath healing. And even when I can't come to like your sessions, I usually just go on YouTube. It's free. If anyone doesn't have access to sound baths, you can always go on YouTube and check those out as well. Anything with frequencies, like,
absolutely.
I just adore frequencies. And something that's really healing to me too is music. Like, I truly enjoy music. I feel music to its whole entirety. Like, I can cry from a song right now. So, yeah.
Frequencies are huge. I mean, frequencies are for sure what got me started on my journey to healing and self-discovery. And I think that that's why, you know, it led me to now playing the bowls, which is incredible. But I do think that there are so many different modalities, and yoga is one that I've been practicing a lot lately too. And it's so incredible. And like, it's been an interesting process for me because I'm a dancer. So going into a yoga class, like, in my head, like, I want the move to be perfect and I want to like master it. And I feel like in the past, maybe like month or so, I've really gone in being like, no, I want this to feel good in my body. I don't care what I look like. I just want it to feel good. And I want to be able to like flow through this effortlessly. And I think that being able to connect with your body is so big in your healing, and as well as your breath work. And yoga incorporates a lot of breath work. So when you're able to connect to your breath and your body and release your mind collectively, it's so powerful.
It's something so beautiful about it. I agree. I think also like the meditation piece of it, right? Like that mindfulness piece, I truly enjoy. And meditation, I used to always, meditation is a really good modality too. Just practicing mindfulness as well.
What does your meditation practice look like? Because I know that it looks different for many people.
Yeah. And I would say it's changed a lot. I've been going through like a lot of like life transitions, starting a new job and all that. I would say for right now, I do a lot of meditation in the morning, and then I sometimes implement it into my makeup routine.
Okay.
You know, because I think makeup can be very mindful. It can also it's also a routine as well. So just being in tune with myself while I'm doing my makeup. So like asking myself during the practice, like, how am I feeling? You know, or like just being compassionate with myself, showing myself that extra self-love in the morning. Because like, you know, sometimes it's really easy for us to like walk in the bathroom and completely go straight to like judging ourselves, right? But sitting in there and being in practice with it and like saying something nice about myself in the morning instead of like automatically judging like, oh my gosh, like I have bags on my, you know, whatever it may be. You know, I think just being able to just be in that and take my time with my makeup and my practice, I feel like that's always been really beautiful to me.
I love that. I love that it's you know, doing your makeup is such a creative process. And so any way that you can find creativity in order to find that mindfulness or the meditation, I think that's beautiful. So I love that that's a practice of yours. I have like so many thoughts in my head. So a few things, but do you ever like incorporate into this practice? When you go into the bathroom and you look at yourself in the mirror, do you ever just like look at yourself in the eyes and talk to yourself?
Yes. There's a book. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to think of the late. I think her name's Lois Gray, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
It's a book on mirror work.
Wait, I have not heard of this book, and now
really,
I need it.
really good book. A really, really hard book.
Yeah, of course.
It's one of those books where you really got to do the work, and it's just interesting to me because I feel like mirrors are like everywhere. Oh
yeah.
And I say that because my makeup brand, it has like the little mirrors on. It took a while for me to be comfortable with looking in the mirror. That was something that I truly struggle with. And, you know, sometimes I still have very hard days, but I think creating a practice where as soon as you see yourself, you just say something positive.
Yes.
You know, you're not judging yourself. Like, that's a place where you can really just be you, you know, and feel like I don't have to create any type of facade. Like, I can just be comfortable right now, you know? It's so much power in that for you. When you do that, you're able to carry that on throughout your day, you know? So, and even like, sometimes like I'll pick up my Being Brown lip gloss, like, and I'll be like, you know, like, let me just say something because I be having those days, like I have to hype myself up when I have like different presentations and I'm not really feeling it that day, or I have like a huge meeting coming up, like, let me just hype myself up. Let me make sure I look good. You know, those things matter, and I feel like they do help. Absolutely.
Yeah. I completely agree with that. And I think that if you're not hyping yourself up, then who is? Yeah. Like, why should it? If you can't hype yourself up, why should anybody hype you up? Exactly. That sounds kind of harsh, but like it's it's the reality of it, because people are gonna hype you up, the people who care about you, you know, and if they can do it, why can't you? Yeah. So I think that that's huge, and I think that it's such a confidence builder, and I think it's a great way to start your day as well, because you're really just starting your day with yourself and for yourself. And it's just something that's so small. Like, it's something you can do anywhere you are. Literally, all you need is a mirror or a reflection. It don't even have to be a mirror. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, taking it back to meditation. Yeah. Other than doing your makeup, when you meditate, what are some ways that you meditate? Some people like to listen to music. Some people like silence. Some people like to be out in nature. Some people, there's different ways that people meditate. What is your preference?
I really feel like it depends. I think recently I've just been meditating in my own solitude. So like I don't have anything planned. It's typically silent and I'm just at peace with myself. And I'm like sitting on my couch. That's usually where I meditate at, on my couch. And I'm just being present in my thoughts, and I'm not really particularly thinking of something. Sometimes I set an intention. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I let the intention come to me because I really don't know. But I feel like that's the best way I like to meditate. But I feel like it changes too.
Yeah, of course.
But I think that's what I've been gravitating to lately.
Okay.
And I also like a good, I also, when it's been a while since I haven't meditated, I like the ones that kind of like prompt you through it.
You do like guided meditations?
Yeah.
Okay.
Guided meditations are pretty cool.
Okay.
Especially when it's been a while. Like I usually, when I get back into my meditation practice, if it's been a while since I practiced it, I usually start off with guided meditation until I find my rhythm again.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's helpful.
It helps with that.
Absolutely. Do you ever practice breath work?
Ooh, I used to. Well, okay, so I was actually introduced to breath work when I used to work at that rehabilitation center. I've always heard of breath work. I've never taken a breath work class. And I took one when I was working there and I absolutely loved it. Like it was life changing. I would definitely do it again.
Oh yeah. I think that breath work it's so powerful in ways that you don't even really expect. And I think that there are so many different forms of breath work that can lead you to different types of healing or enlightenment or realizations and can be really powerful. So I just asked to,
Will you let me know? Y'all doing some breath work soon?
Oh yeah, we need to for
say,
sure. I have somebody that will go and have a breathwork session.
Okay. So I'm definitely down to explore that more though.
Yeah. It's also really powerful too because once you start to practice breathwork, it's something you can do anywhere. So interestingly enough, I told you I've been practicing yoga. Yeah. And there's this instructor that I really like, and there is a type of breathwork that we practice in one of his classes that I couldn't tell you what it's called. I'll have to look it up. But it, for whatever reason, reminds me of being at the ocean. The way that you do it, the way that it feels in your body, the way that you can hear it yourself, it just reminds me of being at the ocean. And lately I have found myself in stressful situations using that breath work to just find peace. And what's crazy is that I can do it anywhere. I could be in the middle of a crowd. I could be stuck in traffic. I could be anywhere. And I'm actively practicing this breath work and actively calming my nerves and coming back to alignment with myself. And I think that's been really powerful too.
That's really cool. Yeah. You're going to have to definitely
I'll share it with you. I'll share it with you.
Because I love a good ocean.
When I figure out what it is, I'm going to put it in the link below too. So you guys can practice this form of breath work. But
that is really cool.
But yeah, it's been really interesting. So yeah. Okay, so earlier you kind of tapped on this a little bit about how you have always been inclined to help others.
Yeah.
But when was the moment that you knew that you wanted to be a therapist?
Ooh.
Or maybe not a specific moment, but what was kind of that turning point or that deciding factor?
I think how I saw how people were inclined to me to kind of like just tell me how they were feeling. Like they felt comfortable enough and they felt like I could hold that space. I think that's where it really clicked for me. Like, wow, like people really trust me to like be that confidant for them. And it was crazy to me, you know, because I was always so quiet growing up and I really didn't say much. Like it was really just me providing that space, you know, that space of just security for some people, that space where, you know, this is a place where I'm not going to judge you. You can tell me whatever you want to tell me. And I'm just going to be like, okay, girl, like it's okay. It's fine, you know? And I think that's what really drawn me to therapy. And then seeing how it impacted, especially like young people, adolescents, and I was like, wow, like I want to do that. And then on the other hand, just realizing like I can be that. I can be that person for another young person that may need that in that moment.
That's beautiful.
You know, like that's what really like was a game changer for me. Cause I spent a lot of time, like when I was growing up, I spent a lot of time alone. Like my mom was working a lot. My brother, he was you know, doing what he do. So I spent a lot of time alone in my room, in my thoughts, and I was like, dang, like it would have been nice if I had someone to hold all of that. You know, so I really, in a way, it's healing for me to be there for other people. You know, so holding that space can be really healing for me. And I think that's what really gravitated me towards therapy.
That's beautiful. That's so interesting because I was going to ask you, do you feel like there's a part of you that did it because you saw the value and wished that maybe you had something like that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I even say that about my brand. Like the reason why I created that brand is because I that was for me. I put it into the world because I wanted to inspire other people and let that be a safe place for other people. But it's also a safe space for me. You know, I think every time through every launch, like through every conversation, just being out in the community, like I'm healing myself too. You know, it's a healing journey for me as well. And I think that's why sometimes I beat myself up when I feel like I became stagnant. I feel stagnant in my journey when it comes to my brand, but then I'm realizing that, oh, I need to go back and do some more internal work. And that's why I'm not moving forward because it is so connected to me. So sometimes like pieces of like my brand or like pieces of like what I want to put out into the world mirrors like something that I may still need to work on. And I can't put it out into the world until I've worked on that.
Oh, I can relate to that like 100%.
You know?
I can totally relate to that.
So it can be tough sometimes because it is something I'm so passionate about. So sometimes it does take me, and I feel like that's why I got back into therapy. I literally told my therapist, I was like, I need to be here because I need to hold myself accountable, and I'm stagnant because I'm in my own way right now. I am, you know, and I had that realization, and that's why I went back to therapy.
That's beautiful. That's amazing. I value so much what you do and what you're sharing with the community, and I think that it's beautiful. So keep doing it. And also, I mean, it can be hard, but I love that what you do is also propelling you on your journey. And that is your why. And that is like, I think having your why is one of the most important things that you can have, and having that purpose. And if you're not constantly able to grow and even call yourself out and have somebody to hold you accountable, then how do you continue to share that with the world? Because we all, as a collective, are forever healing. We're forever growing. And so if you can continue that forward movement and share that with your community, then that's what it's all about. And I think that's amazing.
Thank you. That really means a lot. And I feel like that's what it's all about. Like, we're always healing. We're always evolving. We're always growing. You know, it's just like continuously pushing yourself regardless of where you are in your journey. It's the biggest piece, you know?
Yeah. It's so interesting. Do you, or how do you, if you do, experience bursts or moments of self-sabotage?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think prior to me getting back into therapy, I think I was going through a small little moment of self-sabotage, where I felt like I feel like I was trying my best to not revert back to my old ways or my old habits. For me, that's self-sabotage. But it's also that comfortability of that old person and those old habits. You know, and that's how I felt like I was self-sabotaging myself, because I knew the work that I needed to do, but it felt easier to go back to my old ways and
absolutely,
my old habits. But I just had a realization. I knew like that wasn't gonna push me forward. You know, it was like that realization was like, okay, Jazz, like if this what you decide to do, like how are you going to do all the beautiful things that you said you wanted to do? Like, how are you going to impact other people? Like, how are you going to take people along with you on this journey? You know, and that's when I realized, like, okay, like, I need to go back to therapy. You know, for me to continue to do the work that I do, I need to be consistently working on myself.
Absolutely.
And consistently pointing the mirror back at myself.
Absolutely.
Like, I really, truly feel like this is my accountability season. Like, for all of my shit, you know, because it's really easy to give it out. I can name you all the modalities. I know the CBT. I know the ACT. I know all of the T's and the acronyms for all the modalities for therapy, but it doesn't do me any justice if I don't use it myself or I don't practice it myself.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. I think it was just yesterday, posted something on my story about you can do all these things. You can do the meditation, you can go to yoga, you can do the breath work, you can go to the sound baths, you can do all of the right healing things. But if you're not addressing what's inside of you, then essentially you're just going just to go, which is fine if that's what you choose to do, you know? But it is so interesting how self-sabotage comes about and how it can feel like the easy way it's the comfortable way, but essentially then it becomes harder because when you're doing what you love to do and you're stepping into your purpose, that's where you're fulfilled, that's where you find joy, that's when your life is the most amazing. And so it's so interesting. And I had a moment, this is funny because we were talking about our therapists checking us. I had a moment when I was telling my therapist that I was struggling to do something and pertaining to my business. I don't quite remember what it was. And she said, well, how do you feel when you do that? And I said, that's when I feel my best. And she's like, then why are you not doing that?
Yeah.
And that is like, it was a huge moment for me when she checked me because I was like, I don't know.
Like, dang,
it's scary. It's scary, you know? And I think that a lot of times people have, even more so than the fear of failure, I think people have fear of success.
Yes.
Because they're afraid of what things might change in their life, what they might have to leave behind. But like the reality of it is like you have to leave things behind in order for things to grow. You have to make room for those things.
Yeah,
so.
You absolutely do. And then like the vulnerability of it all too.
Yeah.
Like you have to be vulnerable enough to do the work. And for a long time, I wasn't vulnerable enough to do the work. Like I felt like I had to keep like this face of like everything's okay, everything is perfect, everything's great, everything's gonna work out. But you know, no, sometimes I am mad, sometimes I am pissed, sometimes I do need to count to 5, you know?
Yeah.
And I do need to practice those things and realizing that life isn't perfect. You know, I think social media sometimes do a really good job of just highlighting like, you know, all the good and everything that everyone's doing. But you know, realizing that we're all humans, we're all going through different life changes, and it's okay. Basically, it's okay not to be okay, you know?
It's okay not to be okay. It's okay not to be perfect. And I think that the imperfect moments are more beautiful and tell more of a story than the perfect moments do.
That's so
At
true.
the end of the day, you know, you look back, like, of course, when you're going through it and you're in it, it sucks and you don't want to be there. But you look back on those like the most challenging moments that you've been through and the toughest moments of your life. And you're like, wow, that was a really beautiful time, whether it forced you to grow, whether it forced you to heal, whether it forced you to leave things behind or mend relationships or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for people to remember as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Going back to kind of what you're doing and with being brown, how do you find balance between being an entrepreneur, also working in the community, also working on yourself, also just living your life and maintaining relationships as well?
Oh my gosh, such a great question. I have no idea. I think I just take it day by day. Like every day looks differently. Like even with us, like we'll reach out because that's what works for us. Like so we'll reach out randomly throughout the week. Like, hey girl, like what are you doing? You want to link up today? Like what's up? And I have been trying to be more intentional with checking in on my friends. And for me, sometimes I have to have a routine. for me to feel like I'm making some type of segue, especially because my hands are in so many different pots right now. I have to have a routine. So I depend heavily on my calendar. I depend heavily on my planner, my notes, my voice memos. Like I depend heavily on all of it as a placeholder to like get some stuff done. So I feel like that's how I try to manage. It's still hard. It's tough. I feel like I'm still trying to find my balance for sure. Cause every day it's a whole nother different situation.
Yeah, it's always something different. But for those of you who know or don't know Jasmine, I should say she has her hand in everything. She's always doing something, and she balances it and manages it with such grace and so beautifully. And like, I don't know how you do it sometimes. But I do, what are some ways that when you do slow down, when you do tap back into yourself, find realignment within yourself, what are some ways that you do that amongst all of the craziness that you are working on?
Yeah, that's a really good one. I would say the easiest way for me to do it is just go to the beach.
Yep.
The beach is like my safe place.
Mine too.
I love the beach so much. Like if I can't get to the beach, the next thing for me would be for me to read. I would read, or either I will listen to music. And I'm very intentional in the music that I play. Like I love me some Glorilla. I love all the artists. Like I'm ratchet, okay? Just slightly. I'm from the 252, okay? But I'm very intentional. So like I'll listen to, I think one of my favorite artists to listen to when you want to be more intentional about the music you're listening to is Jamila Woods. I love all of her music. It's so really, really beautiful. I like Janae Aiko too. I'm trying to think of other artists. I have a playlist that I use, and that's the playlist that I listen to. It's been the same playlist for some years now. And if anyone wants it, I'll share it with you.
I would love for you to share it with me. I have one as well. And I mean, I have a few different playlists. One that I really like revert back to when I'm in dire need is called my gratitude playlist.
Oh, I like that.
And it's very similar artist vibes. And it just really kind of opens your mind to the fact that really actually everything is okay. And exactly where you are is exactly where you're supposed to be.
Absolutely.
But music would be
for sure
a big go-to for you.
Yeah, I love music. Like I grew up in a very like music-ist household.
Okay.
Like my brother, he played the piano, he played the guitar, he played the drums. It was a very loud house, if you can't tell. Consistently hearing something,
right?
And I was involved in the church, so like I was in the chorus. I used to sing, I used to dance. Music always just been something I gravitated towards. So I feel like that's why I always have like creative people around me in that industry, because like I love it so much.
I think also creativity is so healing, and we kind of
is.
talked about that a little bit when we talked about you doing your makeup and that being a meditative process. But I've realized, growing up a dancer and now not really dancing as much, I have found so many other creative outlets, whether it be in cooking or playing the bowls has been a creative outlet for me, or just like getting crafty. And I feel like there's so many ways. I don't know. Have you read the book, The Creative Act by Rick Rubin?
No, but I'm gonna put it on my list now.
Okay. Yeah. It's an incredible book, but, and I don't want to spoil it, but basically the premise is that we are all creators and we're always creating with anything that we do, and that's the reality of it, and I think that that's the beauty of it. So I think that when we find ourselves in places, or I should say moments, where we're not creating, I think it's important to tap back into yourself and understand why you're experiencing that, and also where you can find that creative release, because it's
that's
so
a really
important.
Good point.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, I just automatically started thinking about how like social constructs are set up to not allow us the space to like really tap into creativity. Sometimes creativity can be like something that is like an incentive, or something that a privilege we could say for a lot of people. So acknowledging that too in the same space, because like I'm just thinking about like being in the corporate world, and working, especially out here, everybody's like in a grind and hustle mentality, and not having that. You have to be intentional to have that time to really slow down. Like you have to be super intentional about creating that space where you can explore like different creative outlets and explore like what truly you are passionate about.
Absolutely. How do you think, or in what ways? Sorry, I'm trying to think of how I want to word this. Where do you think that change can be made so that people do have the accessibility, availability, and knowledge to embark on those creative endeavors?
School. It really start with the young ones. It really does. I think school could do it. Just the whole educational system can just do a better job of like giving children the space to be able to create and use their other. I think it was the left side of your brain.
I think you're
One
the psychologist here.
I just want to also do a disclaimer that although I'm not a psychologist, I'm a psychotherapist. I didn't learn much about the scientific piece of the brain. I was more so on the other side, but I will say that it's one of those sides of the brains where
I do think it's left.
I think it's left too. Left sounds about right. So let's just go with left. So you can use the left side of your brain to be able to kind of explore those other different talents or avenues to learn and create. Just being we're not humans. We're not supposed to be like in a very like supervised like environment. Like kids are getting diagnosed with like ADHD because they won't sit still when they're kids. They're not supposed to sit still. They're supposed to be up and moving around. They're supposed to be exploring, like, all of those things. So I think it's not something that's going to change overnight for sure, but that's my opinion. I think it definitely starts with the schools.
Yeah, I would agree to that. And I think it's so important for kids to have that creative freedom and the choice. I think that definitely, as you were saying earlier, social constructs play into that. And it's like, oh, they need to all be doing this and they all need to be doing the same thing and be following the same guidelines. And I do think it's really important for children and everybody, but starting with children, to have that freedom to be able to think for themselves and enjoy things for themselves and understand, okay, do I like this? No, this isn't really something that I enjoy. And maybe not always force things upon not only just the children, but everybody.
I agree. Just giving children the choice to choose, and even if you felt like as a child, you didn't experience that, like, give yourself the choice to choose right now at your big age. I'm right along with you. Like, heal your inner child. Like, give yourself the space to choose right now, whatever creative outlet you want to have, and be able to find your true passions. Like, it's never too late.
Absolutely.
And tie yourself not only to your purpose and your goals, but tie yourself to your values, because sometimes we can go through life and we don't really know what our purpose is. Maybe we're realigning our purpose because we change so much as we evolve. Being able to tie yourself to your values is what's going to keep you moving forward when you don't know what your purpose even looks like. So.
Absolutely. That prompted a question in my mind. Do you practice journaling?
Yes, I do. Recently, I've been practicing voice journaling.
Okay, I love that.
Because I just do a better job of just getting it out.
I feel that.
I can ramble, and I just like having a conversation like, girl, let me tell you, like, but I'll be talking to myself. So, like, that's what's been working for me. And then it's easy for me to go back and, like, track my changes through voice recording.
Ooh, so that's really cool.
That's been something that I've been, like, diving more into. But I still love me a good journal exercise. Like, I don't practice it as much as I used to, like a few months back, but journaling is always a good practice to go back to when you need to reflect.
Absolutely.
Reflect on your thoughts, reflect on what you were talking about like years ago, seeing how far you've came, progress, maybe something you need to go back and work on. I really like journaling for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I love going back and looking and being like, oh my gosh, that's what I was worried about, or that's what I was going through. And then it's also beautiful to just see the growth that you've had and like be able to acknowledge that.
Yes.
And it's definitely a very proud moment when you're able to look back in your journal. But I asked that question because I think that it's so important to be able to journal those things, such as what are your values? What are the things that are important to you? And for those of you who haven't yet, I have 3 different journals available on Amazon, and asking questions related to such. What are your values? What do I stand for? What are your morals? And I think that asking yourself that question is so important, or those questions are so important in everything, because it pertains to your purpose and what you're doing and why you're doing it. But it also pertains to your relationships. And if you're, struggling in relationships, or you maybe are not seeing eye to eye with somebody, then what are your values? And do my values align with this other person's values? And if they don't, where's the disconnect? So really taking the time to sit and maybe it's not journaling, maybe it's voice journaling, because I think that's great. All the time, my mind works faster than my hand does. And so it's easier for me to just spit the words out rather than like journaling it. But taking the time to really do those reflections, I think, is important. So I love that. But I love that you're doing the voice journaling. I think that it also, especially going back, like when you go back and listen to them, which I don't do much of. So maybe I need to start this practice.
It can be kind of cringy.
It could be cringy. However, I think that it could be really beautiful because you go back and you can tell, you can feel the space that you were in that moment. If you're journaling, like there's not really an inflection in your voice. There's not really that feeling. It's just the same as having a conversation, like texting somebody versus calling somebody. But if you're having a call with yourself, or you have this old voice note with yourself, and you can hear whether it's the hurt that's in your voice or the joy that's in your voice. Yeah. And that is so powerful, to be able to re-experience the feeling that you were feeling
in that moment
6 months ago, a year ago, whenever it was. So I think that's beautiful. And I love that that's something you've started to incorporate in your practice.
Thanks. I appreciate that. Some voice memos can definitely be harder than others.
I'm sure.
Some can bring you to tears, but I think it is all a part of the journey. And I think another great thing that comes from journaling is like the manifestation piece of it. And we always talk about manifestation and visualization. And I noticed, like, just going back and seeing what I was writing at that time and then seeing where I am now, I'm just like, wow, like everything I talked about, everything that I wrote is here right now. Is in right now. Like, it's just wow to me sometimes to even think about it,
That's amazing, and it's beautiful. And I think that even just journaling is a way of putting that into the universe. I'm like, so
calling it in.
Exactly. And I tell people all the time, like, say it out loud, tell the universe exactly what it is that you want, and to have it written down on paper, like in front of you, or in a journal that takes up energy and space in your home can be so powerful toward those manifestations.
Agreed.
So,
super powerful.
Oh my God. Not me being so happy right now.
No, literally. This is like a full circle moment right now. It's making me so happy.
It is definitely a full circle moment. So let me tell you, Jasmine and I met, how many years ago was it? 2? 3?
Maybe
2.5?
Maybe 2.5. I think
about 2.5 years ago. Connected instantly. And she actually brought me on her podcast. And I think that's kind of what prompted me to like get on a mic and start talking. So this is definitely a full circle moment of having her now on the podcast that I've worked so hard and for so long to launch. Like she knows it's been a long time coming, but yeah. So thank you for that and for your presence in my life.
It just makes me so happy to see you in this space. Like, I'm just like overjoyed because like we've had these conversations. So to see you in this space, presently in this moment, doing what makes you happy, it just makes me so happy. And I'm trying not to get teary-eyed.
I know, same. I'm like,
because I see Nicolette getting teary-eyed.
Next question.
So
taking it back to being brown.
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest rewards that you experience? And then after that, or you can, whichever you want to answer first, what are some of the biggest challenges that come along with being an entrepreneur?
Oh, that's a really good one. I would say the biggest rewards is just connecting. I love doing pop ups. Like,
Mm.
nothing can ever, I know it's a lot of work, like the
Mm.
whole process of getting it together, but like talking to different people and asking them about their own mental health journey. Like, they thinking they coming over here
Mm.
just to buy some lip gloss.
Yeah.
Next thing I know, we're having a whole conversation about like their meditation practices, what journey they're on, like do they have a therapist, what they like to talk about, things like that. So I would definitely say just interacting with the community,
Mm-hmm.
talking to different young girls that it's just the way they face lights up when they see like my brand and it looks
Mm.
it's no other feeling.
Mm.
So or
That's
like having
beautiful.
parents come up like, oh my gosh, like my daughter would love this. I love the
Aw.
name. You better not ever change the name. It's like the feedback that I get. So
Mm.
like I feel like that's like the most like rewarding piece for me. And I think it keeps me going. It really
Mm-hmm.
does. It keeps me going. And then also knowing that I have a really good product. Like,
Oh yeah,
hello.
absolutely. No, her product is fire. Okay.
I just want to throw that out there too. We have a really good product. I started creating makeup in my apartment, my little student living apartment. I still have the table that I created makeup on to this day.
That's so cool.
It's hilarious, and that's the table I still create makeup on to this day. So, just being able to see like what it started out as and seeing where it's at now is always something that's rewarding for me too.
Mm-hmm.
So now let's get to the challenges because there's plenty.
Mm-hmm.
Entrepreneurship is not one for the faint at heart. I'm telling you, like it's truly a journey, but I think
Mm-hmm.
through it challenges yourself and it also challenges like your space to like grow through it all
Mm-hmm.
instead of giving up.
Yes.
Cuz it's really simple and easy just to throw in the towel.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say the biggest thing for me is like finding that team to really help you get where you're trying to go. That's
Mm-hmm.
going to help you that sees the vision of where you are and want to see you win.
Mm-hmm.
Finding a team can be really, really hard.
Mm-hmm.
Social media marketing in general has always been something I struggle with.
Girl, same.
So, if you're watching this and you're a marketer, you just let me know. And another little, inkling, but marketing is hard. I think that venture capital piece is really hard. It's really hard for Black and brown individuals to find venture capital to really
Mm-hmm.
propel their business forward. And it's a lot of things that we just don't know when it comes to running a business. So if you don't set your stuff up right now, it can come back and bite you in your ass later. So it's just like all the like financial pieces. Like in my head, I'm just like, I just want to create. Like I didn't know what else I was signing myself up for. When I
Yep.
went and I submitted my little paperwork for my LLC. Like I submitted that paperwork and I didn't think nothing of it until like the end of the year, and they're like, "Oh, you gotta file your taxes." I'm just like, "What taxes?" Like I barely made money this
Yep.
year. Like, what do you mean I have to file taxes? Those are all the things they don't tell you about.
Yep.
They don't tell you about how you should be checking your cash flow. They're not telling you about how you should have a business plan. They're not telling you about how you should go talk to banks to get, funding for your business. They're not telling you about how you need to register your business with Duns and Bradstreet. It's a lot of things that you just don't know, and you're learning as you go. But I think I've been very intentional of like placing myself in really good groups that can kind of point me in the right direction, or either seeking out the information for myself. So then when other entrepreneurs come around, like I will be more than happy to give that information out. And I still, even when I don't know the full scope of something, I'm always intentional of like, hey, this is what I found. This is where I'm at right now in the process. I hope it still helps you.
Yeah.
So I'm very transparent with my business journey. At least I try to be. Like if someone reach out and they want any questions or anything like that, I'm very transparent on what I know. And I always share the information because it's so much gatekeeping in the industry, and you won't know unless someone else tell you type of thing.
Oh, absolutely. No, the things that you've taught me alone, I'm like, oh yeah, the knowledge
Yeah.
that you have, it sometimes blows my mind because you are so immersed. But I think that really shows that how passionate you are about what you're doing because you're willing to do the things that like the not fun things, like the hard things.
Yeah.
But that's the part of being a business owner and an entrepreneur
Part,
is you have to encounter all of these things and deal with all of these things.
Absolutely.
But again, you do it with such grace. So
Thank you. you. I'm definitely looking forward to just being a founder and just going out in the community and just doing my little thing, my little razzle
Of
dazzle.
course.
Going to go talk to the formulator, like, hey, this is what I'm looking for. Going to go talk to the chemist, you
Of
know.
course.
But there's a beauty in wearing all the hats, like, because no one can sun me. Like, I can go in there confidently knowing that I know what I'm talking about, you know, and knowing that I'm getting the best for my money and what my brand deserves, you know.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of cool being a jack of all trades in a way, or like knowing a lot of information. So then when you go and talk to other people,
They can't play with you.
They can't play with you. They can't
Exactly.
play with your time. So
exactly.
I say all the time, it's important for you to know at least a little bit of what you're trying to do.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. That's part of being in business. But
Yeah.
I'm proud of you for that.
Thank you.
With all of that, and we've kind of bounced around a little bit in this conversation, but what are some of your favorite self-care practices?
Ooh, I love just getting cute. That's like my best stuff. I love getting cute. I love like doing my makeup, doing my hair, taking myself out. Like, I absolutely enjoy that. That's one of my favorite self-care practices. I also like to shop. And then I love a good like skincare routine. Yep. Love a good skincare routine, and I'm just waiting for my time to break into the skincare industry. But I love a skincare. I just love it so much. Like, it's just something so therapeutic about just mindfully just taking a step back and just taking care, like putting on a face mask, being really intentional about it. Even chop you up some cucumbers, like whatever you're feeling in that moment. Put you a little bit of kombucha in a wine glass.
Yep. That's our thing.
Listen, that's self-care. Self-care is whatever like brings you joy. And
absolutely.
Those are things that honestly, truly brings me joy.
Absolutely.
It gets no better than that. Or either sometimes I want to turn on some reality TV, you know? Like, just being honest with yourself, like, okay, like, it's okay to do things in moderation, you know? And I think that's one of the things that bring me joy. Because sometimes, as a therapist, when you're holding and creating space for so many people, sometimes it's okay for your mind to run mindless.
Absolutely.
Even if it's for an hour, watching Love is Blind, you know? Like, sometimes you need that outlet, you know? And I've been more in tune with myself to say, like, this is how I choose to, like, self-care this day and being okay with that and not holding myself to the fire. 'Cause I'm like, oh, my gosh, like, I shouldn't watch this. I shouldn't. But no, like, I am going to watch that because it brings me joy.
If that's what's going to feel good right now, I'm seeking to feel good and do the things that are, just going to, like, lighten your mood. And whether that be shopping or, like you said, taking yourself out or getting cute. I love that. I love all of those things. And I think that
doing your toes.
Yep. Something that I think is so important is just romanticizing your life. Like not waiting for something special to like go out and do this or to get dressed up or to put your makeup on. Like, you don't need to wait for something special. Do it because you are special all the time, always.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yes.
So I love that those are a large part of your self-care practices.
Absolutely. Like, let me change up my hair. Like, let me do something fun. Like, that's self-care for me, for sure.
That's beautiful. I love that. What do you enjoy reading?
Yes.
So what are some of your favorite books or some books that you are currently reading that you would like to share?
Yeah. So I'll talk about what I'm currently reading. Right now I'm reading The Light We Carry by Michelle Obama. I think I was telling you about that because I had put the book down for some time, but then my mentor gifted me another copy, and I was like, okay, like there's clearly a reason why this book keeps coming back into my life. So I've been currently reading that, and I absolutely love that book. It's definitely one of those like self-reflection books. She does a great job of just telling her story, but I think through her story we find ways to like see ourselves in her story, and it's just such a good book. And then another one that I would recommend is All About Love by Bell Hooks.
Okay.
I absolutely love that book. It will show you ways in which love have been socially constructed in our life and how we should think about love in other ways.
I need to read this book.
It's a really good book.
Okay.
I really love Bell Hooks, and it's a really good book. I usually recommend that book to my clients and things like that too. So, really good book.
Amazing. And as far as continuing to educate or enlighten or provoke thought in yourself other than reading, what are
Yeah.
some modalities that you enjoy?
Oh, you know I love a good podcast.
I know.
You know
I knew your
love
answer.
a good podcast. Like, of course, Alon Wellness is one of my favorite podcasts. And then I also listen to Earn Your Leisure, especially when I'm trying to learn more about like the business side of things and stocks and stuff like that. Affirmation for Black Girls. I absolutely adore that podcast. I also listen to The Stoop. Which is weird because The Stoop was introduced to me from like one of my supervisors. It was just a weird way of how that podcast came to me.
Okay.
But nonetheless, I invited it with open arms and accepted it. And it's a really good podcast. It talks about different things that's going on in the world, but it talks about it from a really cool perspective. And then, what's another podcast? I'm listening to In Totality by Megan Brooks.
Okay.
She used to be with another podcast. I think it was called Know For Sure podcast with B. Simone and Megan Brooks, but they kind of went their separate ways. But her podcast is really good, really, really good. It's called In Totality. And I'm also listening to Blessed and Bossed Up. And that's a really good book because it holds you accountable. Not book, but a good podcast because it holds you accountable and it shows you how to get towards your entrepreneurship goals from a very interesting way. Okay. You know, so I would say check that one out for sure too.
All the recommendations. I'm so here for it because I'm always searching for new podcast recommendations.
Yeah,
so
those are my favorite. Oh, and of course mine, Let's Talk Mental Health. I release typically on a very quarterly schedule, but you're welcome to check out some of the podcasts I already have out. Just doing a better job of just destigmatizing stigmas around the mental health. And, you know, I talk about things from bipolar disorder to depression, whatever you can think of, anxiety. So definitely check that one out too.
Absolutely. Check out her podcast. Is there anything else that you feel that we didn't discuss that you want to share? Any thoughts that you may have?
Yeah, so I am currently gearing up to start providing workshops to adolescents and also young adults through Being Brown, and it's going to create a space for you to talk about mental health, affirmations, create your own lip gloss. It's going to be a fun time and just building up community. So just be on the lookout for that. It's one of my other little babies. So I'm really excited for that and happy to be able to like just be in a community with more people. So that's something.
You're doing such a great job in building your community and staying active. And I love that. But for those of you who don't know Jasmine, she's incredible. Go follow her. Make sure you support Being Brown and all of the amazing things that she's doing. She's a real one.
Thank you. Period.
But other than that, thank you so much for coming on today. This, like I said, is just such a full circle moment, and my heart is so happy. And I'm so grateful for your time and your energy and sharing this space with me, but also for your constant friendship and support. So,
and vice versa, sis. Cheers. Love you so much. So happy I could come and join you today.